Between 50 and 100,000 years ago, something truly amazing was happening on a small planet in an otherwise insignificant corner of the galaxy. Nobody can say exactly what it was or how it was happening, but something remarkable was going on. But our story began even earlier than this, 5 million years earlier. This was when our ancestors climbed down from the trees, stood up straight, and walked out into the unknown for the first time. We don't really know very much about them, but the world must have been a very dangerous place for these pioneering apes. Somehow they survived, slowly evolving into intelligent, tool-using, cooperative hunters. Progress, however, was slow, and not much changed over the next few million years. The catalyst for ape to become man was his mastery of fire. With the ability to control and wield fire, our ancestors learned to dominate the beasts of the wild. But maybe even more important than this was that by using fire to cook their food, they liberated much more of its nutrition, and as a result, their brains began to grow bigger. The oldest cave paintings ever found are over 40,000 years old, and it is these primitive works of art that tell us of the incredible change that had overcome these early humans. Nobody can say how or why, but something had happened to make human beings change, to set them apart and make them different. Maybe it was just a natural step in the evolution of our big brains. Maybe it was divine intervention by God, or even as a result of eating mind-expanding drugs contained in mushrooms. Whatever the reason, this was the awakening of humankind, the dawn of consciousness. It was also the birth of language, and ultimately of culture, a truly amazingly fantastical thing to happen here and to us. So now we know where culture comes from, let's break it down into its different parts. The Word of God is an important aspect of many religions. Christians believe that the universe was created by the Word of God. Whether you believe this or not, it was the words of man that created culture. With intelligence and self-awareness come ideas. Communicating these ideas using language is what creates culture. You can think of language as the foundation, or the framework on which the culture is built and supported. We are all born with the ability to learn language, any language. Our brains come hardwired, ready to accept languages, just like a new computer is able to upload new software. It is through using language that we form our identities, pass on important knowledge, and explore and articulate the things that we don't quite yet understand. Language makes culture possible, but is not the only way to communicate feelings and ideas. Sometimes the words we have are just not enough to express the full range of human experience, and this is why the arts are crucial. If it is true that we use words to describe and explain everything we know about life, the world, and our culture, then it is through art that we can explore the things that we don't know about life, the world, and our culture. To understand this, just try to explain, using words, what an emotion actually feels like, or describe concepts like beauty, justice, or friendship. It's just not possible. It is only through the mediums of story, music, dance, sculpture, or one of the many other disciplines of the arts that we can interpret and communicate these kinds of deep, soulful ideas and what they might mean. It is through art that a culture's highest accomplishments are achieved. And although they seem very different disciplines now, the arts were where the sciences were originally conceived. It is also through art that ancient wisdoms and ideas can be retold and passed on from culture to culture and from generation to generation. And finally, it is through art that a culture can examine its own values, including judgments about what is right and wrong, and an understanding of what is good and evil. Throughout the history of culture, right up until the Enlightenment in Europe, the vast majority of art was produced in the name of religion. Early cultures looked to nature and their surroundings for explanations regarding their own place in the world. They began to worship the things that they understood made their lives possible: the sun, the moon, and the stars in the sky, water, fire, and animals on the earth, and the seasons somewhere in between. Nature was idolized and honored as a mother. Culture, mostly through the worship of powerful male gods, became symbolically represented as a father. Where Mother Nature gives life and sustains it, culture does other things. It keeps us safe and protects. It guides and educates. It punishes but rewards as well. In later, more sophisticated cultures, such as in ancient Greece and Rome, gods evolved to represent ideas and ideals that seemed beyond the control of people. So there were gods and goddesses of war, love, music, health, wine, death, good luck, justice, fertility, light, and many, many more. In today's world, most people identify with one of the major religions, like Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, or Islam. But if we look closely at different cultures, we see that people's personal beliefs have roots that go back much further than this. Ancient myths, traditions, and rituals still survive and are an important part of our cultures. So, for example, in Europe, a midwinter festival was important long before Christmas celebrated the birth of Jesus, and a springtime festival of rebirth and renewal was around a long time before Easter. Whatever your feelings about religion, it has a long tradition of bringing people together into communities. All living creatures organize themselves and their societies in a way that gives their species the best chance of survival, and human beings are no different. The key factor for human evolution has been the development of intelligence. Being smart has been a huge advantage, but brings with it one particular problem. The problem is that bigger brains means having bigger heads. This has been an enduring issue for women in childbirth, which has historically been one of the riskiest things a human being can do. In short, human babies must be born very early before they are fully developed, and they take a long time before they can take care of themselves. This has been a fundamental influence on all cultures that have ever existed. The very first social groups were tribes of hunter-gatherers that roamed the earth up until the advent of agriculture, maybe around 15,000 years ago. These tribes were centered around the pair bond of a man and a woman, and included the extended family. Tribes would grow bigger when several families banded together. We can still see echoes of the tribe in our modern cultures today. It is in the institution of marriage. The number of players on a sports team, like in football, rugby, or cricket. It is found in the number of soldiers in military units, groups of workers in industry, or in the boardroom in business, and in law and in politics. How we organize our communities and society is deeply affected by the limitations of our evolution and basic biology. People are social beings, and from small family rituals to huge international events, people are naturally cooperative and enjoy each other's company. From a very early age, children are encouraged to socialize and to take their place within society. The traditions of a culture are designed to bring people together, to make it stronger through commonly agreed upon rituals. Those people, for whatever reason, act against the values and rules of a society are driven out towards the fringes, or even cast outside. Society can be seen as the engine of a culture. It is the thing that drives it forward and provides the means and the energy for changes within it. So the story of culture is the story of humanity itself. And one of the reasons why it is so difficult to define is that we don't really understand ourselves very well yet. And that is maybe, in essence, what culture really is, as a way for us to understand who and what we are. It would appear that culture was an inevitable consequence of self-awareness and intelligence, and maybe as a way for these qualities to evolve us into something new, maybe even beyond Homo sapiens. Whatever kind of being that might be, we can only guess.